grade 9s. So I'm going to teach you today about a tricky skill that is very important when we write CEA paragraphs or essays. And this skill is embedding quotations. So what does embedding quotations mean? Well, it's like it sounds in that you're tucking your quotations into your sentences and making sure that they're all cozy and blended with your work. Remember that when you write a paragraph or an essay, you are the author. Therefore, the purpose of including a quote is to have the words of the author support or provide evidence for your claim. That's why these need to be seamlessly blended within your work. So here is what you need to do. When we're thinking about embedding quotations, it's very important that we know a quotation can't be dropped in as a sentence on its own. This doesn't work. There are ways to tuck it into your sentence much more craftily. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few different strategies. First strategy is to use a signal phrase. So a signal phrase introduces the quote and gives the reader some context about what that quote is going to indicate or what it's providing evidence for. For example, after John Smith was captured by the Indians, he was tied up to a tree, and as many as could stand around him prepared to shoot him. So we have a signal phrase that blends it into the sentence. Often this is going to be a complex sentence, and we have a short clause that's like a sentence fragment, and the quote becomes the other clause, the independent clause attached to it. Another way is to use a colon. So if you have a complete sentence and then the quote supports that sentence, you can join it by these two dots on top of one another, which is called a colon. John Smith was nearly killed by the Indians, colon. They tied him up to a tree and prepared to shoot him. Okay, so if that sentence can stand on its own, you can use it as a colon, but this should be used sparingly. Not every quotation you embed in 9th grade or 10th grade should use the colon strategy. You want to vary them because this doesn't work in every case. Another way is to use a complex sentence. Apologies for the typo. So with an incomplete sentence followed by a comma. So this is similar to the signal phrase. You want to set it up and then have the quote blend into the sentence. Your words are doing the work. The quote is providing evidence for your claim. So there are some rules for making it fit. For example, sometimes you need to change the pronoun. If a story is written in first person point of view, the narrator might say I, but then as you're writing your essay and you just throw in I, it confuses your reader. What's going on? How are you part of this story? Because you are you, the student who is writing this. So there's a way to change it. And that way involves using square brackets to change. So you can see the example I've done here. Change the pronouns to fit your voice. For example, the character says, my mother was an inventor. Well, that's not your mother. That's her mother. But you can't change the words inside a quotation. You need to use these square brackets. You'll find them up near your delete button, just down and to the left of the delete button on your MacBook. And you need to open and close these square parentheses around the words that you change. So see how I've changed it to her mother. You also need to use these square brackets to change capitalization. So if you took something that in the story was at the beginning of a sentence and therefore that word was capitalized, then you need to make it lowercase and indicate the change with the square brackets. Another nifty trick that you can use are these three dots, which are called ellipses. Ellipses are used to indicate where you left out some details. So maybe the beginning of a quote in the story was particularly useful, and there's a sentence in the middle that's unnecessary to proving your point. Use ellipsis to take it out, and you can continue the words after. And then at the end, you will cite the author's surname, last name. So that's Dahl in the case of Roald Dahl. That's Alvarez in the case of Julia Alvarez. And if available, you're also going to include the page number. Okay? So in those parentheses after, that indicates which story it came from. We're going to get you in that habit now. It becomes much more important once you start writing essays that involve multiple sources of text. We're not there yet, but you should train for it. I hope this was helpful. I want to give you an opportunity to do some practice now on this worksheet. Do as many as you can. And as long as you submit these before next class, I will give you comments. This is not for a grade, but I will go in and let you know if you're on the right track. This is a skill that takes some practice and some feedback. So I encourage you to do this before the deadline, because I won't be chasing anybody. If it's not done by the deadline, then you don't get the opportunity for feedback. All right, good luck.